I'm going to go at the very, very core of prepper beliefs, and I'm going to ask, do you really need a B.O.B, a bug out bag? Now, before you dismiss this video and comment angrily below, please watch the video in entirety and then give me your thoughts on the subject. I've had a garden for a long time, and I've canned and dehydrated and froze and put up food and had food storage. And you know, the way my mind works is that I kind of analyze situations, think about the what ifs. It's important for me owning my own business and just conducting life in general. So when I learned there was such a thing called preppers, I thought, am I a prepper? But then I watched some videos on the subject and I realized I couldn't be a prepper because I did not have a B.O.B, a bug out bag, or an EDC bag, because all the prepper sites emphasize that. And even the government sites and even AARP says you must have a go bag or a bug out bag. And these are for supplies for at least 72 hours. Now, I tried to read everything I could on the subject. You know, I watched countless videos. I read articles and web pages and even Creek Stewart's book to try to determine, okay, what you needed in that B.O.B, that bug out bag. And it got a little confusing because some were just about 72 hour supplies, which was, you know, food, water, shelter, and others got almost more into the camping realm and survival in the wilderness. But I was determined I was going to make that perfect B.O.B, that perfect bug out bag. And I worked long and hard on it, and I estimate I probably spent over $400 for the Maxpedition bag and all the contents in it. And I was very proud of it when I got finished. I mean, it was well thought of, it was organized. You know, if you like, you can go see my video. I was happy. I now had the perfect bug out bag. Well, over the years things changed, and I started evaluating my preps and think about what newbie preppers have to do to start out prepping. And I really realized I really don't need a bug out bag. Now, wait, let me explain why. You know, from all I've read about a B.O.B, it should be something that is portable, that you can carry, and you should have one for each member of your family, and it should contain at least 72 hours of supply, and you should hang it right by the exit of your home. So if something happens within a minute's notice, you can just grab that bag and evacuate. Get out of Dodge. But think about that. How often do things happen at a minute's notice? You know, in hurricane country, they really emphasize, the government does, on having a B.O.B or at least a container with supplies. But you know, usually you have advance warning, I believe, for a hurricane. It can change direction, so maybe you have to evacuate. But you would have time, as long as you have these supplies already in your house, in a container, whatever, to pack them in a bag or pack them in your car, because that is probably how you're going to evacuate. Unusual to evacuate on foot. Now, in the past couple of years, we've had some really bad wildfires, especially out in California. And in that case, you may not have much notice that the fire has changed direction and you've got to get out of your neighborhood. So having a bag ready and going is great if you had to go by foot, but again, most people are evacuating by their vehicle. And earthquakes, again, in earthquake country, great idea to have supplies that you can grab and go. But in an earthquake, you know, you might not be able to get at your bag because it was damaged by the quake. It may be unsafe to go back in. But I would say if you're in an urban setting for earthquakes, a lot of times having that B.O.B to grab and go is great, because you may have to actually go on foot. You know, the roads are unsafe, uneven, and so That's your only way of getting out, except maybe if you had a bicycle, I suppose. We've also saw a lot of flooding recently. And a lot of times in flooding, you also have some notice, but there are unexpected flash floods. And then having something that you can grab and go is a great idea, because you might have to go by boat, not by your vehicle. And of course, you could also experience, depending on where you live, tornadoes, toxic spill, gas leak, maybe even a nuclear accident. So what I'm getting at is it depends on where you live and what threats you might encounter. Where I live in Michigan, we do get tornadoes. But generally we don't grab a bug out bag and start walking off on foot when there's a tornado warning. We hunker down in our basement. So yes, if your home was damaged, you might need some of those supplies that are in a bug out bag. But the question would be whether you could get at your bag after a tornado has hit your home. And gas leaks happen sometimes in the urban areas. They can for a whole block or more. And in that case, yep, you need something you can quickly grab and go, because you wouldn't want to start your vehicle because a spark could set off the whole gas leak. So that's a good idea. But I live in the country. I've had a gas leak before on my home, but I called. The utility company was here quickly at 3 a.m. and took care of the problem. So yes, maybe we would have had to go to a neighbor's house or something, but it wasn't something we really needed a bug out bag for. Toxic spills. Again, if you live in an urban, industrialized area, you have more chances of having that, having toxic fumes or something, and causing you to evacuate. But I live in the country. Now, I do live only 4.5 miles from an active railroad track, so I guess that could happen. But again, chances are we would get in our vehicle, not bug out on foot, because that seems like that might even be more dangerous than staying in our house. So why would I need a bug out bag hanging on a hook in my mudroom that I could quickly grab and go? Now remember, I have a lot of supplies, my bug out roll and other supplies, and a handy, little, maybe it's my bug out bag, but it's in my vehicle. It's a water carrier bag that has supplies in it, and I've got a video on it if you're interested. And it's easily portable, and I could carry it for a long distance. But again, I don't keep that in my house, I keep that in my vehicle, because I'm more concerned with getting home than bugging out. If you live in the city, you might depend on public transportation, not have your own vehicles, or it can get just so congested that a vehicle would not help you evacuate fast enough, and you might have to bug out on foot. If that's the case, a B.O.B is certainly something that you should have. But where I live, if I had to hoof it for any great distance, my husband wouldn't make it far. He's had his hip replaced. He soon will need a knee replaced. I just don't think we would have much need for a bug out bag. But we would have a need for those supplies in our home and in our vehicles or our camper. Again, where I live in Michigan, we can have ice storms and snowstorms, windstorms, bad thunderstorms. Anyway, all of those can take out our power. So I think where I live, a lights out kit is more important than a bug out bag. It might be heresy, but I think that lights out kit is something that you're going to use at least once a year. And you may never, ever use your bug out bag. Don't get me wrong, I love making kits. I consider making the kits kind of the almost hobby side of prepping. And I like making get home bags and EDC kits and even Altoid tin kits. I find it fun, and it's really great to think of how much can you fit in a small space that isn't too heavy, and what would you actually need and what would you use. I really love that exercise, and I love making kits. But a lot of our channels, you got to think of, we are being watched by people who just discovered prepping, and where should they put their time, effort, and money into? Should it be in making an expensive bug out bag for each member of their family? Maybe. Depends again where they're living and what the threats are. But again, maybe they shouldn't either. Maybe they should start with the 72 hours of food and water in their home, and then gradually increase that time span and work on a lights out kit and work out some things that they should have in their vehicle at all times. I have to confess, I no longer have a bug out bag. I sold my bag on Craigslist, and a lot of the contents I've repurposed in other kits or in my vehicle or given to friends. I do have the bug out roll in my vehicle, that little kit I explained, and some other supplies. But if we were actually bugging out in the vehicle and we got into congested traffic and for some reason had to go further on foot, then I do have a day bag that I could put supplies in that we would need from the car to go further. But I really don't have a stored bug out bag right in my mudroom so I can just take it and hoof it. So I've got to ask, am I really a prepper? I do not have a B.O.B. Do you have a B.O.B? Do you have one for each member of your family? Is it right in a convenient place that you would have to go by if you had to exit your house so you could grab that bag? Have you ever used that bag? What threats do you foresee that you would need that bag for? Anyway, I'd love to hear your comments. Please comment below. And as always, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. And always, don't just take what you read or hear on other prepping channels, including my own.